Absolutely. Ellen, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here with you, Joe. This is great. I'm glad to be able to speak with you and your audience.
Absolutely. Me too. So let's begin our journey into your work, into your book, into everything that you do. And I want to know first and foremost, surviving the pandemic created so many pivots and changes for all of us. How much of living through that time period has created things that are still a part of your life today?
Wow, I think that time it made everybody become more reflective. We really didn't have a choice because we were on lockdown for a lot of it. And then I think it gave an opportunity for people to, step back and really think about things and what life means in different terms and what changes this was going to bring. And I think with anything, when you have something like that happen, you can take it and you can either let it frustrate you and make you upset that, what's not happening and how things are going, or you can let it take it in and see, what is this telling me and what can I do with it and how can I pivot to go in a different way with it.
So, as an author and a spiritual thought leader, I want to get to the essence of what you do on a daily basis. And to do that, I want to put you in front of a bunch of kids. Third graders, career day. One of the kids in the back of the room is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
How I answer them is I'm a person, my work is all about helping people connect with their intuition and their inner selves and what guides them and being and truly connecting with that part of them. So for me, I would tell these third graders that, to helping them to connect to their inner light and knowing that they're special and that they have a inner guidance system that's always taking them to what's best and most important for them, and that they need to learn how to listen to that, tap into it, listen to it, and let that lead them and how they show up in the world.
What did you want to be when you were that age? What was your dream life?
When I was that age, I couple things for me. I loved art, which I do art now. So I always knew that was going to be something for me. Although I didn't go in that direction initially, but I do work with that now. But I knew I was probably a little bit of a different kid, Joe, because I always knew that I wanted to make a big difference in the world. That was something that was just always driving me, was to make a big difference. And how would I do that? I didn't know. But even at the age of 8 years old, somewhere in the back of my mind, I always knew I wanted to write a book. And fast forward to now, I've done that, but it was always a call on me. And that's what I talk to people about, is following what's always prompting you, following what's pulling you. Because when you're feeling that hit that you want to do something, or you have a certain interest in a certain area, go with it because you're being called in that direction. That's what's calling you to your best self and to your highest self, is when you follow what you're being led to. You're really being guided there from a higher connection that's really driving you. And that's that intuitive space in yourself.
So, when you were 8 years old, what was the book? What was your favorite book at that point? What either made you want to read more or eventually write? Was there a particular book?
I wouldn't say that. I just always wanted to, just books. I just love to read anything.
Yeah.
So just reading was a big thing for me. And you can see behind me, I've got tons
Oh,
of
yeah.
books
Oh, yeah.
behind me right now. But
Yeah.
that's just always been a passion. Any topic, anything was always fascinating to me. But of course, as I got a little older and became a teenager and a teen girl, of course, I got into the romance novels and all of that. But fast forward to today, and I was like, oh, maybe one day I'll write a love story, romance story. But I ended up writing the book that I wrote. And it's funny, I was talking to my husband about it. And it's like, you know what? I did end up writing a love story because it's really a love story about how we need to connect with ourselves, how we need to love ourselves, how we need to share that compassion and love out to other people and embrace our connection with the world in a larger way and with humanity. So it's a beautiful story of connecting, how we connect with each other, ourselves, and with life overall.
How did you finally decide to write the book? What was the process of saying, I have this dream, I'm going to do it? Because writing a book is a big deal. Just the whole timeline of doing it, and now you're promoting it and all of those things. What was the moment where you decided, I'm going to do this journey?
Well, for me, this book has it's very special in how it came about for me, because I lost my mother like 3 months after my son was born, 3.5 months after my son was born. And that really, when you have something like that, it really makes you, just like the pandemic, it really makes you go inward and start trying to figure out, what is life really about? Why am I here? What am I doing? How do I navigate this change? And so that really sent me on that journey. I started meditating and I started getting quiet and trying to just figure things out. And in that time of meditating and really connecting, I started feeling like this bigger, I had like a spiritual awakening that helped me to connect to, I always say the biggerness of life. But I started getting these wonderful messages. The more I asked these questions, the more I was getting thoughts and information coming to me. And I started writing them down and writing these beautiful messages down. And over 10 years, I actually set up a website in 2013 and started putting these messages out there on the website, that just insights I was receiving. Started noticing that people around, and just having it up, people were going out and looking at these writings. I was just sharing my heart, what was coming to me. And over time, a lot of people started looking, more and more people started looking. And so I just kept posting and posting. But this book is 10 years of those writings all pulled into a collection and put into a book to share out. So people around have seen them on the internet, have seen it around. Now it's in a collection of a book that can be shared out even to a broader audience.
So let's go back to that grade school room of career day. Um, what were the seeds that were planted into you when you were younger? Where were you born and raised? What were the seeds that became the foundation for you to get into art, spirituality, writing? What were those things that were foundational for you?
I'd have to say a big thing for me was how I was raised. I'm one of 8 children, raised in a large family, very strong family values and faith. And, I grew up in religion, spirituality came, with that. But I grew up Catholic, so
Yeah,
that was my background. But, it was, I think that seeds of just always having that background in religion, my parents always instilling me to be the best that I can be and to make a difference, positive difference. I think all that just kind of came together. I believed in my faith. I always grew up with a strong faith, and that is what pulled it all together for me. And to follow where I was being guided, I just always felt like I had this inner voice
yeah,
that was guiding me to what I needed to do and to follow that. My mother would, of course, like a lot of moms will tell you, is like, follow your love, do what you love, follow that passion. And my passion was always to, help people, to
yeah,
be a light. And how could I show up in that way? And that's what I think guides me. And that's what I would tell any young person, is really tune into yourself
yeah.
and what makes your heart sing and what makes you feel good and what are you being drawn to and called to, and follow that path.
So who's been a hero for you? Who has been an inspiration that's allowed you to evolve to this point in your life?
Oh, wow. And going back to my mother, she's
Yeah,
she's not here now. She's passed on, but she was a huge foundation and inspiration for me because, like I said, her foundation, her faith, her instilling that faith in us, and me and my siblings, she was definitely a hero for me. But I would say anybody, I was always drawn to, and anyone or anything that promoted positiveness. That's just who I am. I'll tell you, a prayer for me that always guides my way is, the prayer to Saint Francis: make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. And it goes on and it talks about how we need to show up. And that was just something I learned in Sunday school, talking back to like 8 years old. And that was just something that resonated with me and just always guided that. That's what I want to do.
yeah.
That's what I do.
So is there anybody on the planet right now that you admire and look up to that you would love to meet and talk to that might help you on your path?
Oh, of course, I'll tell you one of the people that I think is out there spreading and sharing her light, that I've always said I would, if I had an opportunity to meet, and if you could arrange that, Joe, you'd be my best friend forever. And of course, that would be Oprah,
Yeah.
Oprah Winfrey, because I love how she's taken her platform and is positive in helping to, open up conversations and getting people to get in touch with their authentic selves and show up in that way. So she's been an inspiration for me.
For sure. So let me ask you this. How do you balance everything in your life between, writing and helping people get to that place to understand themselves, but you're a human being that needs to evolve. You have your own life as well. What is the motivation to balance all of that, to do it to the best of your ability every day?
Well, first and foremost, I'm a mother. So I do have a beautiful, 14-year-old son. And he's my driving force for why I do everything that I do, because I know the more that I show up and can put my messages out there, the more he's looking up to that. And I'm role modeling that for him.
Yeah.
So, and keeping that balance is important because that's my number one priority. But I also know that being a mom and being a wife, those were so important to me to have that in this lifetime. But it's also knowing that anything that we say and do impacts others and how I can show him through my example what that looks like and how he can show up in the world. But yeah, I think just being conscious of balancing my time in that I want to make sure that for my son and my husband, that I meet their needs, but also fulfill that inner calling
Yeah.
to do more and to give more. And so writing books is just a way that I'm able to do that and put that message out there.
The one thing about getting to a point where we're at in our lives is that it requires risks. We always have to take some level of risk. What's the biggest risk that you've taken in your life professionally?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. So for me, see, this is part of, I knew I wanted to make a difference. And I went to college and my undergrad, when I got out of undergrad, I went into the federal government.
Yeah.
So I started at a grade scale 5, but within 14 years, I'd worked up to the senior executive level. So for me, I was 36 years old at the time. And usually at senior executive level, most people don't hit that until they're about like in their 50s, like 40s, 50s. I worked up pretty quickly. But I got to a point where I did all of that and it was great. And I'm a senior executive, I'm traveling and I'm meeting with people, working with political appointees. You hear all that in the media now. I've worked with all of that and people across the country in the agency and all the different parts that it had across the country. But I looked in the mirror at myself at 36 and I said, you know what? This doesn't feed my soul anymore.
Yeah.
And I wasn't married at the time, no, not married, no children. I had a home and car, mortgage, the whole works. And one day I just like, I can't do this anymore. And I quit my job just quit with nothing else. I had nothing else to go to. But I quit with a strong faith, knowing that there was something more and I didn't know what was next. But relying on my faith, I was like, God, I'm going to do this and I'm going to leap. You're going to have to help the net to appear because I don't know what's next, but I just know I can't do this anymore. It doesn't feed me. And that's what helped me to make that shift out of, I look at it, there's a certain part of your life where when you're in your 20s, your teens, your 20s, 30s, you're working for, that's the ambitious part of yourself. You're
Hmm.
going out there succeeding. How are you going to show up in the world? You're making your money, your status, your success. But then it comes to a point, and I think everybody hits this, where you start to look and say, you shift from that ambition to meaning and
Yeah.
purpose and impact. And what's the legacy you want to leave? And I hit that point, and that was my biggest risk because I left a job with nothing else to go to, with a lot of obligations,
Yeah.
but in the end, it all worked out.
Yeah, for sure. So, what's the best advice you've ever gotten?
The best advice I'd ever gotten was, well, that's a good question. I'd have to say, just keep going back to staying true to yourself,
Yeah.
following what makes you happy and not living for, I guess, like the expectations of others and what people want you to do, but what you truly want to do. Because when you follow that, that's when you're going to be happiest in life.
Yeah.
That's when you're going to hit, that's where you're going to live from that soul self of you. That's going to be your highest and best. So that was the advice. And that was my mother. She's always saying, go for what makes you feel, what you're called to, what makes you feel good.
Yeah. So, let me ask you this. If you had a dream tonight, ran into the 18-year-old version of you, you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've accumulated over all these years. What advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, wow. I like that question too, because I would tell her, don't sweat the small stuff,
Yeah.
really. And really, a lot of it is small stuff. We get caught up and we worry about so many different things that we don't really focus in. And I know for me, this is me talking to my 18-year-old self, I'd say, just know that everything is always going to work out and just stay true to yourself and keep following what you're being guided to because you're going to do the things you want to do. It's going to happen. but don't stress over it. Don't overthink it. Don't sweat the small stuff, but enjoy and embrace every moment because it goes by fast.
Yes, it
It
does.
really does. And just being present,
Yeah.
stay present and enjoy.
So for anybody out there that has a hard time hearing their inner voice, we get so clouded with life, the pace, and everything that's going on. What would be your advice to anybody out there that really wants to dig in and get rid of the fog and figure out who they are and what their voice is?
Love that. And that starts with just setting intention is so huge. Setting the intention that that's what you want to do. And then when you set that intention, make the time for it. But I say every day, just getting quiet, meditation, prayer, just sitting in stillness, whatever resonates with you. Just take some time every day to check in with yourself, to get quiet. How am I feeling today? What's what feels right to me in this moment? And whenever you do that, just check in with yourself. And when you can cut through the noise and when you can get quiet and really tap in, I always say you go inward, and that's that soul connection place. And that's where you receive your guidance and your intuition comes to. That's where it comes. When you can get quiet and connect into that and really feel what feels right for you,
Yeah.
regardless of what's being told and what's going on around you, that's when and you start making that connection. That's when to you're going to start to really connect into yourself. That's what happened for me. Was I
Yeah.
started meditating,
Yeah.
and that meditating is really what brought it through for me.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, of everything that you've done and accomplished and evolved into at this point, what are you the proudest of?
I'd have to say, for me, it's going to be my son.
Yeah.
My son is because what I'm showing him and how I'm showing him how I'm showing up in the world, it also helps him as
Yeah.
well. And he actually has two writings in my book that I put in there from when he was 11 as a model and inspiration for him to keep going, keep doing. And I'm just proud that the book has received 7 awards. I just went to an award ceremony back in November and had him go up with me to accept the award as well, because I'm like, this is a foundation for you to see what's possible. But I'd say my son, and I would say how I've evolved to understand that my place in the world is just to be of service to everyone, just to put my light. Goes back to what I teach people: embrace yourself, put your light, show up, don't play small. Nobody's meant to play small. Show up and put yourself out there, put your light out there, because when you let yourself shine or be even vulnerable, you help others to see this okay, and they shine brighter. We're all interconnected and touch points for each other. So I'd say my most proudest thing is my son and the fact that I'm walking my authenticity and showing up. And I wish that for anyone and everyone.
So let me ask you this. We've entered a new year. We have some strange things going on the planet right now. How hopeful are you as we look into the future and move on?
I am hopeful.
Yeah.
I am hopeful. There are strange things. I don't think there's ever, hope never goes away. It's only if we let it, if we lose sight of it. The thing is this: our external world only has the control over you that you let it have. You have to decide in yourself and know that I always go back to this is my faith part of me, that this too shall pass. Everything passes and things will always get better. But you have to do what you're connected and what's right for you and what you need to put out there to do. So I don't lose hope. I look at everything that we go through, even the challenging times or challenging situations are there to help us as individuals and then as collective group, whether it's a nation, a country, the world, humanity, to evolve and grow. But we've got to be willing to listen, be present. And what are the lessons that we're getting out of it? What are we learning? What is the situation, this challenge, or even this triumph? What is it teaching us? And how do we use that to help us be better moving forward or to maneuver differently going forward? So I never lose hope because, like my book, A Place of Love and Light, I always believe light, even those challenging times, those in what may seem dark times for some people, there's always a crack to let the light in. Look for the light, and the light will show up in kindness and goodness from others, and how you embrace the positiveness to know that hope is always there. Things will always get better.
Yeah. So, Ellen, at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, everyone that gets your book, everyone has this idea of who they think you are, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I am, and this is I love that you asked this question. My husband asked me this question a few years ago, and my first response and my response will always be, I am love. That's why I am the embodiment of love. And so knowing that that's who I am, the essence of who I am, that's what I'm going to give to anyone and everyone around me and who I meet. As far as status, author or a mother or, a former senior executive, or those are titles and those are great, but that's not what feeds the soul. And that's for anyone. That's not what's going to feed your soul. Those are great, ornaments that you can hang around you, and that's beautiful, but that's not the essence. When you pass away, you leave this earth, what you're going to leave and what people will take from you is how you made them feel
Yeah.
and how you interacted with them. So for me, I am love.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anyone wants to pick up your book, they want to reach out, they have questions, they want to delve into your business world further, where's the best place to go?
Okay, for my book, you can go to my website, which is ellenedmondson.com,
Okay.
and my book can be found on Amazon, and it's in paperback right now. The audiobook version will be out at the end of this month, beginning of March, for those who don't have time to just sit and read, but would like to pop it in and listen to it in the car or driving or exercising. So that'll be out soon. And I do have a follow-up to this book that'll be out later this year.
Okay.
So, and it's all about practical spirituality, helping people with their personal and spiritual growth. This one is like a devotional style book, so it's easy, quick reads
Yeah.
that you can get for hits of inspiration, and the next one will be going even deeper with practical exercises for folks. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I love it. Ellen, thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. Best of luck with everything. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for
Yeah,
allowing me to share this space with you and with everyone
absolutely.
else. I truly appreciate being here with you.
You bet. It's been wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate it.